Right. Hello and welcome, everybody, to the Angelic Footprints podcast show. Today, we have a very special guest with us, and her name is Sophy Burnham. She is the author of 17 books, and she has published a number of novels, nonfiction, short stories, children books, poetry, and scores of essays and magazine articles. Her work, A Book of Angels, is why she is here today. Now, that book was published in 1990, and that spawned bookshelves of angel books a year, as well as films, TV shows, t shirts, and angel stories. And interestingly enough, this book has been translated most recently into Chinese. Sophy, it is such a pleasure to have you on the show. Welcome, welcome. We are so looking forward to having you talk about your angel experiences. But before we start, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, well, that's hard. I'm now, gosh, what can I say? I've been a writer all my life. I have been a seeker of God and truth and um, authenticity. Can I say that? Searching in the spiritual dimension all my life long. Right from childhood, I had experiences. And And I guess but can I say that I've just written a new book? Is that is that
Of course
possible
you
now?
can, Sophie.
Okay.
Tell us that,
I have
right?
just
Tell us
written
that, and then we'll get into your. Tell us that.
I've just written this book, which is called The Wonder and Happiness of Being Old. This is the English edition of this book because it will be published in the US, UK, Australia, New Zealand, Brazil, and Japan so far. And now that I'm 88 years old, I want to tell you what a wonderful period being old is. Okay, enough of that. Now we can talk about angels.
Please, our listeners would love to hear some of your stories.
When I was 28 years old, my husband and I went to skiing in Val d'Isère in France in the Alps. And if you've ever been there, it's high above the tree line, high up. There are no trees anywhere. And it's the most wonderful skiing. You can ski all morning down to a town and over the mountains. Anyway, I was a very strong skier. And at a certain point, I fell and I'm on my back, falling headfirst on my back down this very steep slope. I'm off the piste, I'm off the track, and um, and I can't somehow bring my skis around and stop myself. And then I think it doesn't matter. Soon I'll hit a rock or a tree and I'll stop. Because seeing between the skis, seeing the sky, I was captivated by the beauty of the sky that was all kinds of colors that we'd never seen before. And my heart leapt out of my body saying, home. And I had the curious thought, it doesn't matter if I die. And at that moment, I stopped. Now, you have to go back a moment to my husband standing at the top of the edge where I'm falling off the track, sees a skier come tearing past him. I must be traveling 20 miles an hour on this hard-packed ball bearing like snow. And this man comes flying past me, stops, and I land against his legs. Now, that would not, you don't expect to do that. You expect people to fall together. But he didn't even
Yeah.
jump. He didn't even jump. I landed as softly as if he were placing me in a crib. Only later did I understand how unusual his whole experience was. I stood up. I looked in his eyes. He's dressed all in black, and he has dark eyes, and they are pools of love. So I wanted to hear him speak, and I said, "Merci, monsieur." And he did say a word. He turned and he began herringboning up the mountain. I am a really strong seer, and I'm coming afterwards like Mickey Mouse following the 7-league giant. He gets up to the top. David turns to him, "Hey, that was extraordinary." And he heads off and around a corner. And I come up to David and he says, "Are you all right?" And I said, "I'll talk to you later." And I head out after this guy. I just want to be seen like that again. And there's nothing there. When I come around the corner, there is not only no one anywhere on the slopes for miles. And at the same time, I look to my left and I realize it was the top of this cliff that I had fallen down, that I would have landed on these gigantic boulders and been killed. What I could not forget is the light, is the seeing the sea, the ocean of sky. I can't explain it exactly, but it was not like any sky that you have ever seen. And being filled with this vaulting joy, just joy, home. Everything is perfect. Everything is going to be perfect. And then I slam into this man who does not speak and who goes away, vanishes basically. He should have been skiing, but his eyes were pools of love. I cannot tell you how I have never been looked at like that. But afterwards, now mind you, I did not believe in God at this time. I was under my husband's atheist, secular brilliance. And although I couldn't stop myself from praying, I didn't believe in God. So what did it mean that I could have my life saved like that? So naturally, I did what anyone would do. I said, this did not happen. And I went home to my baby and I tried to pretend that it didn't happen, but I could not forget it. Now, interestingly enough, I had an experience just a couple of years ago that I think was an angel. And it had that same effect of the stopping of time and a kind of electricity of light passing around it. And in that case, I was 85 and I had a birthday coming up. I was soon going to be 86. And my daughter took me to the theater for my 86th birthday. And before going, I thought I must have cough drops. And so I made her stop at the CVS, which is our big pharmacy.
Pharmacy. Yeah.
And I grabbed some cough drops off the rack and then bumped into this woman. And I said, as in my hurry, and I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And she stared at me fiercely and ferociously, and I thought she might hit me, and I said, "Please forgive me." And at that moment, she said to me, and mind you, I'm thinking, 86 is so much older than 85. I'm done. I'm finished. I just, all of the depressing things you think when you think about being old. And she said, "You are so beautiful. Look at you. You're a princess, the way you move, your elegance. You are so beautiful." And I'm looking at her, and you have to imagine this kind of sizzling light that is passing back and forth between us, and this sense of silence and time stop. And I see this homeless woman, brown-skinned woman, and I'm actually seeing an Egyptian princess. She is so beautiful. And I'm saying, "No, you're beautiful." And it goes back and forth between us. And then at a certain point, I'm filled with urgency to buy my cough drops. And I turn away and go to the and I and when I turn back, I can't find her again. And that's one of the symbols of an angel is they're only there for a moment. You're not sure if anyone else has seen them. You have a contact. David doesn't remember this business of his skiing at all. Slipped his mind entirely. He didn't know that I'd been stopped by a man. And
It's
and so there are two examples. I love your title, Footprints, because usually they don't allow us to see them. Now, I'm working now as a psychic and a medium, and I see angels all around the people that I'm giving readings to.
right.
And occasionally you feel a presence beside you. It's not your imagination. They're with us. And
I agree. Yeah, that's
they've
exactly
been
right.
with us since before we were born. They agree to come with us because it's not easy to be a human being. And so there are companions, and they'll be with us when it's time for us to leave and to help us out
Oh,
of our bodies. So there are
yeah.
just two examples. I see
Sophie,
angels. Yeah.
I was just totally enthralled with your story of how you told of your rescuer on the mountain in France, and obviously of your experience in the CVS pharmacy as well. And I think what you say is absolutely right. It is sometimes we don't realize that we're having an angelic experience until
Uh-huh.
afterwards. And it makes such a difference to us. How would you say having angels in your life, and you talked about being able to see angels, how would you say that that has influenced your life?
That first one, which is probably the most dramatic story that I've had, did not mean anything to me. I put it out of my mind. I refused to think about it. My mother said calmly, "Oh, that was your guardian angel." And I sort of thought, "Oh, I guess I have a guardian angel." And it didn't mean anything until I had had many more experiences. And it was after I had had so many that I began to write a book of angels, not for publication. I wrote it for myself. And all it is a chain of stories like pearls on a necklace. so many things, so many little angel notes or footprints in your way of either my own stories or stories of friends of mine that I knew so well I knew they weren't lying. And Dagmar, afterwards, I read the book and I thought, this is really good. This book should be published. And
Yeah, the world needs to
and
know.
do you know I could not get it published? So here's an angel story, although you would never think it was one. 5 years pass. I have it at my agent in New York. I doubt if he ever sent it out because he didn't know what to do with it. And then I meet by chance, I'm living in Washington, D.C. I meet a New York agent who has just come to Washington, D.C., thinking that she would move and become a partner of somebody down there. She was only there for a couple of months, long enough to meet me, say, I can sell this. And I left my agent and went to her, and she went back to New York. I think 2 months was the whole time that she was in Washington. And she sold the book immediately. And it was God's timing because God's time is perfect. If it had been published when I wanted it to be, 5 or 6 years earlier, it would have just vanished in no one into the vast numbers of books that are published every year. But it came out, and it came out with such a beautiful cover. I don't know if this is the cover that you had, this beautiful
Yes,
cover. And
that's it.
people bought 10 and 12 copies of it to give to their friends because it was very cheap. It was very inexpensive. Deliberately, I wanted it not to be a coffee table book. And they were buying 10 and 12 copies and giving it away, and it became a bestseller independent of the book publishers who had thought, well, we'll sell 5,000 copies to libraries and recover our. They couldn't keep it in print. And I think what we forget so often is that the universe wants the very best for us, and it will give us what we want. If we want despair and depression, it will give it to us. Oh, you want that? Okay, here, you can have it. If you want hope and optimism and the expectation of the best, and maybe I'm lucky in having that, I seem to be blessed in some way because
It
even when I'm depressed and think the world is at its lowest, I can remember these little moments when I've been touched by angels, and I say, well, I don't understand it, but somehow it's going to work out. Somehow it's going to work out for the best of all concerned. I have to believe that. I think
Yeah,
the one
you
thing
and
that
me
it has
both,
done
and
for me is I'm not afraid of death. And I know people who are afraid of dying, I, but I've seen that there is no death.
mm, it's true. Yeah. And I love your story of how the book got published. It sounds very much like divine intervention to me. And as you say, when we look out on it with a positive aspect, then that's going to have a positive result. Similar to this podcast, it's about sharing these stories, getting people to really believe and see that this can happen to them as well. And again, thank you. Thank you for sharing these stories. Thank you for being here. Did you want to tell us a little bit more about the book that you mentioned earlier, the one that you are just publishing?
Oh, it has just come out. It's in the bookstores now. I don't think it's even had time to be reviewed. It's called The Wonder and Happiness of Being Old. And it comes because my young cousin and I were having coffee in Paris at a sidewalk cafe. And she said to me, I'm 59. In a few months, I'll be 60 years old. What's it like to be? And then she choked on the word old. She couldn't say it. And I just burst out laughing. I had to say, Eleanor, you won't even notice your 60s. I bought my horse when I was 68, I said. This is one of the happiest and most fascinating periods of my whole life. And then I went home and I began to think, well, what is it like to be old? Because all the stories about being old are written by young people. There's no one who's writing about. So I began to write her a series of letters, what's happening. And the most interesting thing is the first chapter is about I hate being old, looking in the mirror, seeing my mother's face back at me. And as I continued writing the book, I really embrace the fact that I'm lucky enough to be old. And I have another 10 years, maybe more, but I'm 88, so assume 98. I've always felt I would die at 97, but not so long, and therefore very precious. And
Well, that is in divine hands, isn't it? We don't know when that moment will come, but I hope that you are going to be around considerably for a long time still to share all of those wonderful stories with the people that need to know them so that it gives them encouragement as well. Absolutely.
Dagmar, thank you so much for letting me be on your show. I
It's my
really
absolute
appreciate it.
pleasure.
You're so lovely. You've
Well,
had your own
thank you.
stories,
And
haven't you?
I have. And in my very first episode of the podcast, I tell of my own story of my uh, significant rescue by an angel when I was a pedestrian. So, and I, like you, didn't really appreciate that for what it was at the time because I was in my early 20s when that happened to me. But if I wouldn't have had an angel step in, I'm sure I wouldn't be here to be able to tell that story. So
Will you tell me
I
your
do believe
story? Tell
yes,
me
I
your
could tell
story.
you, my story. So I was about it was a summer's afternoon. I think I was about 21, and I was due to go to my friend's house for an evening out. It was a Saturday night, and it was beautiful. It was just one of those nights where I was supposed to go over there, and then I knocked on the door, and I am showing my age here too. This was in the day before mobile phones. And I knocked on the door and there was nobody answering the door. And I thought, look, I'll just go down the road and I'll make a phone call. And I walked to the end of the street, and lo and behold, there was a big double highway. So cars coming in both directions, two lanes either way. And in Australia, it's a bit different than in the US. It's reversed. So you have to look right first and then you look left second.
Yes.
So I did my look to the right, no cars coming, not a problem. Go to the middle divider of the road. Then did my look left because I'm expecting cars to come from my left. Then crossed the road, but a car hit me from the right because what had happened is that first section of the dividing road wasn't actually open to traffic, and I didn't know that. So when I went to cross the road, this car was allowed to come, but it hit me. It was doing it about 45 to 50 miles an hour, and
And it
I
hit
couldn't
you?
believe it hit me, yes, and I was tossed into the air. I think, again, there must have been so many things happening there that spirit put a protective barrier around me because it hit me on the leg. I still have a slight dent in my leg, but it knocked me then over to the other side of the road onto the far side, onto the footpath. And within about 2 minutes, there was one doctor and two nurses at the scene checking me over. Thank goodness no broken bones or anything like that. My dad was called and he came to the scene and he spoke to the poor man who had hit me because he couldn't believe that I'd crossed the road. And do you know what? Not only was there no damage to my body except what became some lovely purple bruises over the next few days, but there was no damage to his car either. So he's hit me, but the car, no dents, no nothing. I know, except for, like, I had a ring on and there was apparently a small, absolutely tiny indentation, what could have been the ring on my right hand, but no damage whatsoever. And at the time, I didn't appreciate that that was an angel, and everybody just said to me, "Oh, your guardian angel must have rescued you." And I'm thinking, really? Like, like you, I didn't, I hadn't come from a background where I really appreciated that. And then other people said to me, "Oh, go buy a lottery ticket. Go buy a lottery ticket. You are so lucky." And it wasn't until later that I got to appreciate, wow, I really was saved by my guardian angel.
Now, I have to tell you something, Dagmar. While you're telling me this story, you are covered in light. And when you go back and look at this video, see your aura shine brilliantly because we're talking about something so deep and authentic and real. I I know we should really stop, but I want to tell you one more story. And this did not
Oh,
happen
please
to
do.
me, but to a friend of mine. She was kidnapped by some soldiers. I'll make this a short story. Taken deep into the forest where they raped her and tortured her. And then they ran a car over and over her to kill her.
Oh,
And it was a muddy day, so she sank into the mud instead of being killed when she was run over. And then they went away. At the same time, a man who had never been night fishing before, a black man who lived maybe a mile away, woke up in the middle of the night thinking, I think I'll go night fishing. And on his way, he met her body and found her and covered her with a cloth and held her in his arms and told her that he was going to go for help and she had to stay alive. So he's walking to the highway, and just then a motorcycle comes by. And this is the middle of the night and nowhere in Mississippi. A motorcyclist comes by and he waves him down and tells him to get an ambulance. And the motorcycle goes off and finds a telephone booth. We had telephones outside in those days, like like
yes.
your telephone.
Yes.
And he makes a call, and the ambulance is right there almost instantaneously because it happens to be around the corner. Only when he hangs up the phone, he realizes there's a sign on it that says out of order, but it was working for him. So the ambulance came and they saved her. Now, years later, she is raped, and all during the rape, she's saying, "Now my guardian angel will save me. Now my guardian angel will save me." And no guardian angel came. So we have to ask, why do they come sometimes and not others? Why do they come to women more than men? Why do they come to children more than women? And we don't know these answers. There's so many answers that we don't know. She and I talked
Yeah.
about this a great deal. And I said, it's because we have free will, and the angels could not prevent the man's free will from being executed. They can bring comfort and warmth and guide the doctor's hands, but we have free will. And she said, "No, I don't think so. It was because I needed to learn to forgive more deeply." And
Yeah, that's a very goodness, it's a very hard story to hear, isn't it? And
yes, it
I
is.
agree with it is.
It's a
In
very
some
hard
ways
story, but the fact is we know that they're there. We don't know why.
why?
Why me? Why why not the starving people in Gaza? Or maybe they all have angels there too, we don't know. These are very, very deep questions, and they must be asked. We must pay attention to them.
Well, we do have to pay attention to them, and the only thing that I would offer on this, and again, this is a very difficult topic, so I apologize in advance if anyone's listening to this. I don't mean it to cause any offense, but we come into this lifetime to learn certain lessons, and sometimes they can be very difficult lessons. What is the lesson for having trauma inflicted upon you? I don't know. That's a contract between you and God. And we
Mhm.
probably won't know until we go back upstairs to say, hold on a sec, can I have a look at this contract again? Why did this happen to me? And why did I have to go through these experiences? We come into this lifetime to learn lessons. It's some people say hell is hell on earth because we have such difficult lessons that we need to go through. If we wanted it nice and cruisy, we could probably stay upstairs for the whole time. That
Mhm.
is, I think, the extent of what I can offer in regards to that. What would your thoughts be along those lines?
There I would echo you. I think that we come voluntarily to have the experience of being in a physical body and working on the physical plane, and we are beings of light. We are ourselves. s- I can just say that we're beings of light inside, captured inside a physical body in order to have a physical experience. And some people seem to have a very fortunate spiritual experience, and other people seem to be homeless or traumatized, and they are the heroes that allow us, more fortunate people, to feel compassion. I think I don't honestly know what it is. I know that we come voluntarily. We think it's gonna be so easy. "Oh, yeah, I can do that." And then we get here forgetting the whole fact that we're spiritual beings of light.
Yes,
And
it's true.
and
It's true.
"Whoa, this is a lot more than I thought I'd handle." But
Yeah.
fortunately, we have angels working for us, and there is some reason for it. I cannot help but think that there is a great this great mystery that we call God. Is the universe a friendly place? Is God on our side? Yes, is the answer. Yes. We are not alone and we are loved beyond our comprehension, even while desperately awful things are happening to us.
I think that has to be our takeaway, definitely in terms of living our day-to-day life, in terms of the challenges that we face. We do have to remember that there is that love and that there is a reason behind it, even if we don't always understand it. Sophie, it's been such a pleasure having this discussion with you. Would you like to share with our listeners how they can perhaps get in touch with you?
Yes, I have a website, sophieburnham.com. I see that my name is only guest, but maybe you can put the word Sophie Burnham in there somewhere. I am now on Instagram, and I would love to hear from people. I have an email at info@sophieburnham.com, and that's the email that I give psychic readings and mediumship for. Though I have to say there's a
Wonderful.
very long list. There's a very long list I may not get to you soon. But
That's okay.
that
For those of our listeners who are interested in connecting with Sophie, info@sophieburnham.com, and she would love to connect with you if you would like to have a reading, whether that's a psychic reading or a mediumship reading. Remember, she's also got her book that is coming out, and there are the Book of Angels and the other books that she also has, and I'm sure that it's available on all Amazon, would that be right? Amazon as well as most other
absolutely,
places.
and presumably in the independent bookstores.
Lovely.
Thank you so much.
Sophie, such a pleasure having you here. To our listeners, I hope you have found this episode as enthralling as I have. And if you found this episode valuable, please share information about the show with 3 people who you believe would find it beneficial. If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a 5-star review on the platform where you are listening. Until the next episode, blessings, and may your life be filled with hope and inspiration.